Welcome to Tenacious Entrepreneurs, where perseverance meets purpose and every setback is just another step forward. Join us as we dive into the journeys of entrepreneurs who faced failures, embraced change, and emerged stronger than ever. Whether you're dreaming big or already on your way, this podcast is here to remind you that the end is only the beginning. Stay inspired, stay tenacious, and let's conquer the entrepreneurial world together.
Hey, it's Joseph Dupont, your host of Tenacious Entrepreneur Podcast, and we're coming back today to hear the rest of the story from Rene, Manfre. If we jump right back in where we left off, we were talking about you went into a point of actually having to file bankruptcy because of Katrina, was it?
No, it was because of the 2008.
2008. Okay.
Downturn.
So yeah, you said there was a downturn, and you said something about the bridges.
Right. Well, Hurricane Katrina is where I saw those bridges, right?
Okay.
And that's where I came home. I had to recreate. I had to start up a little small construction company, and then about a year later, I started a small cafe because of Hurricane Katrina. I already had a little bit of money still coming in from insurance, and this is where my story goes from. Sometimes you have to have different income streams coming in,
right? And
it's very crucial because you don't know what's going to happen.
So that's actually a biblical principle, believe it or not. There's a scripture that says to put your bread into many baskets and send them out into multiple waters,
right? Because
you don't know which area may fail.
Correct.
And it's a principle that I actually, after I failed for the first time, it's a principle that I lived by.
Correct.
To have multiple streams of income and make it to where I didn't just have one thing that I was hanging my hat on, because I was in the RV industry in 2008.
Yeah.
In 2007. And you know how hard it was in that industry because I'm a luxury brand.
Right.
But definitely, I would say that hanging your hat on one thing is really tough. But finding the things that can be able to be done that are stayed within your peripherals.
Correct.
To where you can monitor it. If you own a construction company, of course you can flip houses.
Correct.
If you own a restaurant, starting a gravel pit is maybe a different idea,
Right.
But maybe you can do a meat processing company, you know what I'm saying? So talk to me about okay, you made the decision, you filed bankruptcy.
Well, what happened was that when 2008 hit, I should have gotten rid of a lot more properties than I held on to. I held on to some high-end properties.
Right.
I just started building some condos in Florida. And so I should have let those go sooner because I wasn't prepared.
Hindsight's 2020. Yeah.
Right.
We can see everything, from the backside of it. But
so just wasn't prepared.
Yeah.
So when I called the bank one day, and these are bankers who I've been dealing with for years. And if I make a phone call, I always knew, hey, if it's a good deal, they're gonna
snap it up, yeah.
And tell them, Rene, we can't do anything. And I was like, what do you mean you can't do anything? I said, Rene, we're right now we can't make any decisions right now to do anything. So this is when I started feeling that crumble. I was like, whoa, because I'm used to making a deal, at least 1 or 2 deals per month. So my cash flow was coming from a little bit of the restaurant deal, but at the same time, I started hemorrhaging a little bit with that, and I started hemorrhaging with the real estate only because I had some land that when my goals were to build on those pieces of land, but I couldn't build. So I was sitting with this land that was just basically not doing anything besides sucking my money, right? And then I had certain properties that I should have got rid of earlier, but then all of a sudden, because of that time, within a few months, I couldn't get rid of them at the price that I thought I can get rid of them at. So it really started hitting me within a matter of just months. And then certain friends of mine, we were all kind of like in the same boat. We all had different real estate property, and that was our main income. And when that started really hitting me, like you were saying earlier, I think that my wife at the time, she was a police officer. And so she didn't really understand that I needed to make $25,000 to $30,000 a month just to pay the bills. Right. And I had certain properties that weren't being rented out at the time. I was fixing up 2 properties at the time, and I just couldn't get the bank to help me out with certain things that I needed, to have a little extra cash flow or lines of credit like I used to be able to do.
Right.
And so one night I had to pull my my wife into the kitchen and just let her know that not sure what's going to happen right now, but I've got to figure out another stream of income. So I'm just letting you know. And it was not easy. It was a tough. So what do you mean?
Tough conversation to have.
You're letting your family down, right?
Yeah. As a man,
Pride,
I
right?
think that's the toughest thing.
Yeah.
We're the problem solver.
Correct.
Our wives come in to tell us all the troubles, and we break out our toolbox and we try to fix her. And so, the thing is like we're the problem solver. So when the problem solver can't figure out the problem, that's a very tough place to get into as a man.
Correct.
As an entrepreneur. And so that's a struggle. So how did she take it? What was,
like any, they take it, but at the same time they're worried.
Right.
Now all of a sudden it's worry time. Now it's just kind of, what's going to happen I'm not sure yet.
It's
all
not
I know
security.
is I'm just going to figure it out, but I'm just letting you know we need to slow down a little bit, right? Can't do things we were doing with traveling and things of that nature, right? So it just kind of puts you in a position to where you're just not as strong, right? As like you were saying earlier, just not as strong. You're able to, all of our friends and people like that. She would tell them about what we do and stuff like that, but it just really stopped, right?
So let's say okay, you decided I'm going to have to go ahead and file bankruptcy.
No, I didn't decide that night.
Okay, you didn't decide that night.
This was all decision
you just told her that I need to make a choice.
Need to start figuring out what to do.
Okay.
So it got worse. So months went by, relationship-wise, stress, financial, everything else. I couldn't figure out how to make the money I was used to making, so I had to go back into the insurance. And State Farm gave me an opportunity to potentially own a State Farm, but I had to start off first at an entry level.
Right.
So that was not easy because it wasn't paying me very much, but $2,000-3,000 a month. So that wasn't going to support the notes that I needed to make, right? So I was going to work, doing insurance again, trying to get that reel going. Same time, stress at home, everything kind of just hitting you every which way. Creditors still calling me up, bankers, loaners, and it's just pressure, right?
Right.
But I had to stay focused every day on what I can control, what I can't control. So I basically told the bankers, so listen, buddy, I'm trying to sell a property. I came to you with 3 properties, selling it to you for what I owed. When you're telling me I got to come up with fees to bring to the table, I ain't got those fees. I'm giving you your property, your money, but you have to figure out the fees. And they basically, they wouldn't change.
Right.
That's when I said, okay, screw all y'all.
Right.
So it's the hardest thing to do, but I'm sitting here doing everything in my power to pay off the debts that I owe. But these fees that are accumulating because of the banks and everything, loans,
and
lenders,
the late fees and all that kind of stuff.
it just overwhelms you.
Yeah.
So
you hit the button and say, okay, I'm gonna hit reset.
correct. Hit the button and just said, you know what, I'm doing bankruptcy, and at the same time, me and my wife again, we had some problems. We started getting separated. So when I made the decision, it was a hard decision. And even my father, he was kind of, always talking to me, son, whatever you want to do, I got your back. And
so what you're saying is you went through a divorce.
I was going through a divorce
And through bankruptcy.
Watched my Denali being towed away.
Repoed
my vehicle.
Yeah.
So here I am at one point within a matter of years on cloud 9, owning a bunch of property, had a beautiful car, beautiful wife, everything. And in a matter of a short period of time, because some decisions that I did not make or did not, it just crumbled.
Yeah.
It just crumbled. So I went to the bankruptcy. Had a friend of mine, not a friend actually. He turned out to be another graduate of Rummel High School, and she said, Rene, no problem. So the bankruptcy cost me $1,500. So I've paid him. Said whatever I got to do. Went into the bankruptcy court. Within 15 minutes, I wiped out $3 million. My dad was with me, and he got us in the front first, and they had maybe 1 or 2 other lenders there asking, is this in the bankruptcy and et cetera. And we walked out of there. My dad was like, well, God dang. If I knew it was that easy, I would have told you to think about bankruptcy years ago.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to, right?
Right. Because you don't want to, we don't know the fear of what's next.
Correct.
And that's the thing that I can say.
It's not so much what's next. It was because I didn't want to let people down.
Right.
these people counted on me, right?
Right.
And all of my life has been.
So it was all built on relationships.
It's all through relationships.
Yeah, it's all through relationships. So you don't want to let the relationships down.
Correct.
But you didn't.
So that was the hardest part.
Yeah.
That was the hardest part.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Right.
So you lose your car.
Lose the car.
Did you have a vehicle to drive?
No.
So I didn't even think they could do that. That they can take your car and not give you a vehicle to drive.
I don't know how. I don't know. That was so blurry at that time.
Yeah, I understand. I get it. I totally
can't
get
even
it.
explain it.
Yeah.
All I knew.
But
that.
so you went with no car.
Well, with no car, my dad let me use his truck.
Okay.
And at the time, there was a hurricane came in.
Right.
And again, being an insurance background, I learned real quickly, well, wait a second, I can go get an insurance adjuster's license. And I started talking to some individuals, saying, Rene, you make this much money. So I wound up dealing with my dad's truck, living at his house, okay, with him and my mother, in my sister's room, old room, which is all pink. Okay?
Right.
That's where I started. Now remember, I
got a visual picture of it. I'm picturing you laying in the ruffled bed.
I told you about the 27, right? So
Yeah.
I came home from Arkansas at 27, and at that time I was $30,000 in debt, had an old Bronco with a busted up door, living in my sister's room, right? And then I became well off, right, for 10 years, 12 years.
Right.
And then, bam, here I am again, back in the house. Same room, right? So my dad let me use his truck. I went and did some insurance adjusting.
Let's talk for a minute about. I want to ask you, like, mentally, do you even remember, like I know it's a little bit of a fog for me. Like I just don't remember. It's like we black out
Right.
some of that stuff. Like, do you even remember your mental space?
Oh, yeah.
Like when you were there in the room again, like.
Again, you feel so low, right? You feel that you lost everything, and you have the visuals. You can't get rid of them. You can't. It's like a movie,
of them
right?
taking your car off or whatever.
Well, you can't get rid of the visuals of the conversation with your wife in the kitchen. You can't really get rid of the visuals of the fighting and arguments. You can't get rid of all the feelings and things, all the things, that emotions that happen within a very short period of time. It just really just.
But it speaks to your strength, though, like that, to say that, like, okay, a lot of guys would have just put a gun in their mouth,
Came close.
Yeah, I'm saying, like,
Right.
that's what I'm trying to find out. Like, what got you through that?
Somewhere period in that, okay, before I moved back to my dad's house, I kept my properties, and I was able to keep those properties for a period of time before the banks took them. So I wound up renting out some of those properties and still making some income.
A little bit of income for that, yeah.
But at the same time, I turned into an alcoholic.
Okay.
Totally went ballistic. So I was kind of having fun, but at the same time, stressed at the same time. Right. So I knew I had to figure it out. I just didn't know what it was. I couldn't figure out how to make it again. And then I did car sales. So a few things in that period of time, I guess I can say, between that period of time that I kind of forgot about it. I didn't realize it. I went through maybe a year or so of really so much between partying, going out every day, trying to figure out how to get back in, and it was all about relationships.
Yeah, the party was just your way of mechanism of dealing with it. You didn't have to, when you're drunk, you don't have to deal with the reality of what's going on right now. Of course, tomorrow morning you feel like hell, and you got to deal with it tomorrow morning. So,
but I was still. It never took over my life. So it never took over me to where I just stopped working.
Yeah, no, I get it.
So I was always figuring out. And,
you're a functional alcoholic.
Yeah, I was a functional alcoholic. I wasn't off the rails totally.
Yeah.
And I remember just between that period of time, again, it was making phone calls, talking to certain people, and I wound up. The insurance adjusting was.
I guess what we're trying to get to is your mental state. Okay, like you're like at a state of like I'm complete. Everything's gone. Everything's lost. And I don't know what I'm going to do next. And then somebody just offers you opportunity to go do the adjusting.
Yeah.
And so you just pulled yourself up from the bootstraps and said, okay, I'm just going to get out and
I have
do
to
it.
say, it's like you're saying Tenacious. I think that's the name of your book.
Yeah.
I will not stop because of a no. And I could not stop at that time saying that I'm done.
Right.
I've just made a mistake. And I just got to figure out what my next step is. So it's always next.
Right.
And if you don't have that mentality of problem, what is the solution, next? And you got to every day, it's like a strategic mindset that you got to look at every hour, every minute, every second. And you have to look at it, okay, what do I have to do to get back on the horse? What do I have to do to get back into the rhythm? What do I have to do to get back into that place that I want to be?
Right.
I know the feeling.
The mental space.
Right.
Because that's the thing. Like I've been in sales myself. I've been in sales all my life.
Correct.
And it's a mental space for sales.
Right.
Now, if you're doing adjusting, it's totally different.
Correct.
But in the sales side of things, it's a complete mental space. If you can't get in the right mental space,
Right.
there's no way that you can be able to even make a sale. So you jump back into the doing the work.
Correct.
Working with your hands, like you did when you were a painter and you worked for the plant.
Correct.
And you stuck in that for a year, for 5 years, for.
What happened was, I think I stayed within that little period of time for about 3 years.
Okay.
Went through, like I said, went through the divorce, went through everything. Finally, started figuring out between the insurance adjusting, made some good money. You were talking about the truck, so I made this guy who owns a towing company. I made him some good money on one of his properties,
Right.
with the insurance adjusting.
Right.
And I told him my story, and he said, "Well, Rene, I got a truck in the back. If you want it." He gave me a truck.
Gave you the truck.
Gave me the truck.
Didn't know you from Adam. Just gave you.
Didn't
the
know
truck.
me from Adam.
Okay.
He gave me a truck. We made a good relationship, friendship. I helped him out with the situation with that property because the insurance company was not going to give him what he was
Yeah.
really needing.
I call that little handfuls on purpose. There's a story about Ruth and Naomi. I don't know if you remember that from back in if you learned it back in Sunday school, but it's Ruth and Naomi,
Right.
and Boaz was a redeemer, like the one that was actually supposed to be the kinsman redeemer.
Right.
They could marry, the Ruth,
Right.
but they were beggars, and basically, widows and orphans. And people that were not having any money in
Right.
Israel, the law was that you could not glean or harvest the whole field. You had to do it in a circle and leave the corners. And so the corners was where that was their Social Security or whatever you want to call it, like unemployment.
Right.
Was if you want to make money, you go out and redeem. You get from the corners and take your crops from there. And Naomi sent Ruth out to go get into the corners and get the grain, and Boaz saw her and had favor over her and told his workers, leave handfuls on purpose while you're harvesting,
Right.
behind you, like when you see Ruth coming up, drop handfuls of grain on the ground,
Right.
so that she can just pick it up. When she came home, she had bushels of grain, and she was only supposed to have like a bucket.
Right.
She had bushels of grain that she had to pull on a mule. And Naomi's like, what the world? And it's called handfuls on purpose. And that's the way God does sometimes,
Wow.
I think, to get you through this heavy, hard stuff,
Right.
is he gives you little handfuls on purpose just to make it to where you can breathe.
Right.
You know what I'm
right.
saying? Like you had a little bit of favor there. And it got you a truck. And so you got a truck, and then what happened?
At that point, I started the insurance adjusting, kind of faded away because of the hurricane. I didn't want to travel, so I
Yeah.
could have traveled and everything
Cat
else.
5
But
teams and stuff, yeah.
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 And another friend of mine who I made years from behind, he was in Florida, and he called me up one day, and he asked me if I would be interested in learning about this marketing program that was a video email marketing. So this is back in 2010, 2011.
Yeah.
So back then you didn't have video.
So he couldn't tell you about Bitcoin. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's one thing I never. Yeah,
If he told you 2010 to buy Bitcoin for $1 a coin.
I missed that one, and
But anyway, so I'm sorry, I didn't mean to sidetrack you. But he told you about this email marketing.
yeah, email marketing. So me and him actually, because of my Keller Williams relationships,
Right.
we had an office that I used, and we would start doing training. We start teaching people and to companies how to use video email marketing and how much more impact it would make to your customers. So I started realizing at that point, sales, marketing,
Right.
entrepreneurship, I knew the problems that people had, right? So we did very well with it, but I could not get it to a point to really get me enough income because people just didn't understand it.
Right.
So I went and answered an ad for Mercedes. They have a smart car. So I don't know if you remember the smart cars.
Oh, yeah.
So Mercedes-Benz here had a smart car
Okay.
division. So I went and applied, and the guy, Mike, basically said because I didn't have car experience, he couldn't hire me.
Yeah.
So, okay. So I went home. I took my little video email marketing program. I made a video, and I made it to where it had pictures of videos of cars and et cetera, and I sent him a video. Hi, Mike. Listen, I understand I don't have sales experience in car business, but I have marketing experience, and this is how I plan on selling cars. So I look forward to hearing from you tomorrow. He called me the next morning to do you hired. Went in there, and just like you were saying earlier, I did not sit and wait for people to come to the car lot.
Right.
And I was doing videos. I was calling people up, and I was basically sending them videos of the cars that are in the lot. I sold more cars to people out of state than in state.
Wow.
And I was using a smart car as the smartest way for you to promote your business. You can pay $3,000 for a billboard sitting on the side of a interstate, or you can pay $3,000 to get this thing wrapped and routed wherever you want. So I helped them really kind of take that smart car division into a whole nother level.
Right.
Mainly because I just saw a niche.
You saw a need, yeah.
I love the car.
Yeah.
I drove that little car. I went to the Super Bowl. I went to Saints. I drove that. I would pull up on little different easements, and people were like, man, what is that? So it was, and then, well, I'm 6'2", right?
Yeah. You get out of that little smart car. It looked like a clown show.
That little car has more room than you can never imagine. It was just a fun little car.
Stop selling, man. I'm not buying a car. I don't want a smart car, man.
So that I think, again, that was just a little area of time, about a year I did that, and I did very well with it. And it was kind of just opened my eyes up again to the car industry and stuff. And a friend of mine was getting his car oil change at Mercedes. Yeah. And we ran into each other. We knew each other from the past. And he said, Rene, what are you doing here? So I told him my story. I said, dude, man, listen, I'm doing some construction with hotels, and I know you used to run a staffing business years ago. I said, yeah. I said, would you mind working with me? And you run the staffing deal, and I'll just pay you. Yeah, sure, why not? So here I am. I'm living with two friends of mine, Jimmy and Nick, that we all went through divorces.
Well, I want to point out something that you may not even recognize in your personality and your character. Now that I'm getting to know you and hear your story,
right?
You are not afraid of change.
Oh no.
But that paralyzes people.
Correct.
Is pivoting and making a change,
Mm-hmm.
And it's the reason why most entrepreneurs fail.
Correct.
Or not most. I'm saying like the reason why entrepreneurs fail,
right.
If they fail, is from not being able to pivot,
right?
Not being able to just say, yeah, let's give it a shot.
Mm-hmm.
I remember my wife right now. I was always big on mentoring,
right,
and being mentored,
right.
And I had a RV dealership, and I had somebody that was had an RV franchise in Knoxville, Tennessee,
right.
That I was trying to pick up that franchise for the trailers,
Mm-hmm.
and so I called him to ask him about it. The guy was from Australia. I loved his accent,
right.
And I asked him about what if he liked the trailer and what he could recommend me getting it to sell. And he said, "Oh, mate, that'd be great. You need to come down and check out my place, and I'll show you all around." I said, "Sure." I got off the phone, and this was like probably 6 o'clock at night.
Right.
My guy that was James Percival, he was my CFO or my COO in the business.
Right.
I told him what had happened, and I said, "Man, you want to go to Tennessee?" I didn't know. I thought Tennessee. I've only been to like Gatlinburg.
Right.
I thought it would be like 8 hours. 14 hours later, we drove from 6 o'clock at night all through the night.
14 hours
to Knoxville, Tennessee. 13 and a half hours.
Really? Okay.
Is how much it was. We may have been in a small car, but it was a long ways, man.
No, okay.
It was 13 hours. Because
Okay.
I remember like asking when we got past hour 6, I was like, "Hey, man, how much farther?"
Right.
And we got there. I was delusional by the time we got there because it was like 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And we got a hotel. And the next morning, I showed up at the guy's lot,
Mm-hmm.
and he was like, "What? What
Didn't
do you
I
mean?
just talk to you last night?
I just talked to you last night. What? And I said,
Right.
"You said for me to come up here and check it out." And he said, "Heck yeah, man. Come on, let me show you." He showed me all around the whole place, open up his book, show me how he did his book, show me how he did his
Wow.
service department, show me how to do everything. And one of the things he said was, "Hey, you need to hire a female salesperson."
Right.
And at the time, it was a very male-driven industry, RV industry.
Right.
And he said, "Just think about it." He said, "Real estate agents are females because they're selling a house." He said, "You're selling a house on wheels.
Right.
Get you a woman to do this." And so I'd been through a divorce, and I was divorced at the time.
Right.
And I'm driving home with Jimbo that night, we're talking.
Right.
It took us probably 4 hours to even come up with 2 people that we could think of that we'd want to be around us, because we were in the, it was a very, I just didn't want to have a woman that would be like distracting all the guys and flirting
Correct.
and sleeping around. And so we came up with 2 people. I called one of them because we both knew her number because she was a real estate lender. And it was 266-7000. I'll never forget it. And I said, hey, I didn't even know what time it was. I'm delusional. I've been up for 2 days.
Right.
And it's 10 o'clock at night. I didn't even realize it, but I'm calling her at 10 o'clock at night and said, hey, we ought to come, check out the RV dealership and see if you want to work for us.
Right.
And you know what she said? She said, I'm always open to more opportunity. I'll consider it. And she said, I'll come interview. She came and interviewed, and then she told me, promptly, at the end of the interview, she said, well, I'm going to go home and pray about it and see what, the Lord says. And I said, well, great. I said, I'll give you 3 days. I mean, if Jesus can raise from the dead in 3 days, you can make a decision in 3 days. And so she's like, okay, I'll let you know. She called me the next day and she said, I prayed about it. The Lord said no. And I thought, good hussy. What do you mean the Lord said no? I mean, I'm the man of faith and power by the hour. I'm calling you, telling you to hire. I'd never been turned down by anybody that I was trying to hire.
Right.
And I ended up interviewing her sister to come in and work as not as a salesperson, as a secretary.
Right.
And the whole time she came in and interviewed with her sister. And the whole time Jimbo, who was interviewing her, my COO, was interviewing Carmen, her sister. And I was, sitting back, because that's what I like to do in an interview. I like to watch, especially with women, to sort of see if they're trying to, how they carry the conversation. Are they confident? Do they have and so the whole time, Mary keeps answering the questions that Jimbo's asking Carmen. And I'm getting frustrated because I'm like, we already offered you a job. Would you stop freaking answering the questions and let your sister answer a question? And it hit me like a scale dropped from my eyes. I thought, okay, this girl is somebody that I would be interested in as a potential wife. And if I would have hired Mary, who was so confident, I would have fired her because I would never have somebody work for me that I was interested in.
Right.
And I probably would have never got to even ask her out.
Right.
I'm married to Mary today.
Wow, really?
It's the power of making the decisions to take risk.
Right.
And to be able to pivot. And I think that's probably like a key that I would take away is like, the reason why I think you were able to move now into a place where you're more successul, and you pivoted past that, is because you weren't afraid to take a risk.
Right.
Go into a whole different industry. Like you went into a whole different industry you're in car sales.
Correct.
And he says, hey, come run my crew. That's brave, brother.
But it's brave, but at the same time, you take opportunities.
Well, but I mean, opportunities just present themselves, and you're not afraid to take a risk. And I think that's what I would say to entrepreneurs that are watching today, is like if you are in a place where you feel stuck, or maybe you just had to file bankruptcy, or maybe you're about to have to file bankruptcy, and you just feel like that it's the end, that it's a period or an exclamation point. It's not. It's a dash.
Correct.
That means next.
Correct.
Like there's a next.
Right.
And just be encouraged, that there's a next in your life. And we're going to close out this segment on, but I just want to say, what would be the thing you want to leave as a takeaway for entrepreneurs that maybe, they've been listening to all the podcasts of all the most successful people in the world and how they're so bright, but they need to hear like how you managed to push through.
I think it's really this desire that I want to just be open and curious and learn everything I possibly can. And when you close off your mind and discontinue a person because maybe they're not a successful person, I've learned from a lot of people because I'm just open to listening. And just like when you have a business, like I have different businesses now, I have to listen to my people.
Right.
And sometimes they might not be the big people that we think we should be listening to, but sometimes just listen. So I just basically feel that in today's world, you have to be totally open to just listening, learning, and just collaborating and building relationships.
Amen.
And just take it the good Lord is, I just live by faith.
Yeah.
Every day I live by faith. I pray. Sometimes we have little spats with my praying,
Yeah.
but at the same time, always provides.
Yeah. It's always a path. You just have to
Always
find the
provides.
crack
Correct.
and be able to go through it. Well, man, thank you so much for coming out to the show today, and it's a pleasure getting to know you.
Ah,
And
great to-
looking
thank
forward to
you.
having you come on again, man. There's so much that you got to talk to us about that I feel like we could have gone another segment on it, but we'll definitely
appreciate
drill down again sometime soon and get together. Thanks so much for coming out, brother.
I appreciate it. Thank
All right.
you.
That's it for this episode of The Tenacious Entrepreneur. Thanks for tuning in and being part of this journey. Are you an entrepreneur with a tenacious story? We want to hear from you. Visit our website, tenaciousentrepreneur.com, and click on the Tell My Story link. If you got something valuable from today's episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with a fellow entrepreneur. Keep pushing forward, and remember, the end is only the beginning. A new episode drops every Wednesday at 7:14 a.m. Until then, remember to stay humble, stay focused, and be tenacious.